Daniel Karsleg, ladies and gentlemen, with his pitch, It's All the Rage. It's a feature documentary, 90 minutes long, and it's fully produced in the US. Dan, you're the heart and the brain behind It's All the Rage, and you're an experienced award-winning director and producer also from the US, but have been living in Berlin for like 12 years now. You're not new to the impact arena also. Your past work has always dealt with social justice issues. So, what's driving you with this project, It's All the Rage, now?
Well, I am an American living in Berlin, but I'm also a German. I just got my German passport, so I have both, which I'm very proud of. My mom is German, so I'm really half German. So I really do feel very much a part of this country and especially this city. So It's All the Rage is about something that is happening in the US, but it's really being replicated everywhere in the world. Germany is just a few years behind, and that is extreme polarization. And I come to this because I am in an incredibly polarized family. My parents are still very strong Trump supporters, and let's just say I am not. And that is a very, very difficult thing in my family. I love my parents, and my family is very important to me, but I needed to find a way to see past that and see them as human again, because all of the messaging that I'm getting about people who support Donald Trump doesn't make sense to me when I think who my parents really are, but I'm being told endlessly to not speak to them, to look down upon them, to just have nothing to do with them. My family is a symptom of the greater society in the US, as I've been here for 12 years. We came during Obama, and then I watched what started happening to the US. Every time I go to the US, people are more and more enraged. That's why the word rage is in the title. It's the word that always came to me starting in 2017. If you supported Donald Trump, you were enraged because that's what he does to his supporters, and if you didn't support him, you were enraged at what he was doing. And that is not good for a democracy. So this is a very personal film, but it's really about society, and the most unsettling thing for me about it is I'm watching it happen here. The same forces, the same people who are making money on our outrage and our contempt for each other in the US are doing it here now, and I have to do something about it. I'm a filmmaker, so I decided to make a film about it.
Makes sense. But then, how do you make polarization tangible? So how do you make a film about a topic as complex as polarization then?
So if there's one thing I've learned in my time as a filmmaker, it's that audiences really react most strongly to small personal stories of people they relate to. So my task that I took on was to find 4 or 5 characters who are somewhere on the political spectrum in the US and watch them build bridges back across the aisle. So I settled on 4 stories. You'll meet them in the trailer. 2 of them are from the left. 2 of them are from the right. The 2 people on the right, one of them is a Minnesota trucker who spent a lot of time literally beating up liberals in bars and decided that he was the problem, so he started a podcast where he sits down every week with someone he totally disagrees with and spends an hour talking to them. This does not happen in the US anymore. People do not talk across difference, so that's an incredible story. The other Republican is a woman in Utah who works with the Republican governor there, but quit her job because her family was being destroyed by politics. She needed to find another way, and she's found an incredible way to work dignity back into dialogues and take out contempt. Those are the 2 on the right. The 2 on the left, one woman is a Mexican immigrant whose parents are Mexican immigrants. This is my story in the film. She's a liberal. Her parents are Trump supporters. all my films are me kind of working out my issues with my family. She is that. And then finally, the fourth story is someone who's in the government, because I needed to have a politician. She's a newly elected congresswoman at the federal level. But even before she started, she was wildly attacked by the other side for who she is. And she took it all with incredible grace. Her name is Sarah McBride. She's the first and highest ranking trans member of government in America. So those are the four stories. And really this movie, above all else, is about hope. We will look at how we got to where we are. We will absolutely talk about social media and biased media and algorithms and how bad that is for the human race and how we are in this trance believing all these things that really aren't true about each other. But the heart of the film are these four stories. It's really a story about hope, because I have to believe that people, when they see a film like this, because so many people feel so hopeless now in the US. All of my friends have stopped watching news, have no hope that it will get better. They just think it will get worse. We call it the exhausted majority. That's the audience for this film, because there are these people who have found ways to cross back over, and that they are scalable. So I have a lot of hope that when people see these examples, they think, maybe I could have a role in reclaiming our democracy. Maybe I could have a role to coming back to where we were. And again, it's double meaningful to me, because Germany, I see this happening in Germany. We're 4 or 5 years behind, but it is on its way. So I'm really hopeful we can get this message out here in what I call my home country now, because I think we could do even more good here, because we're not so far along.
I say period, and let's watch the trailer.
Let's watch the trailer.
Today we're going to talk about the Democrats.
A right-wing isolationist MAGA cult.
Shame on you, my brother.
There's been a rising animosity in American politics.
We all heard Cookie Jill's rant. Together.
He is ducking debates and canceling interviews because of exhaustion.
These attitudes that the politicians have
So in It's All the Rage, we see the strong political and societal polarization in the US, obviously, but also in Germany, it's considered increasingly polarized. Recent studies, for example, show that 81% of Germans perceive the society as polarized and divided. And this also is reflected politically in the voting intention polls, for example, when respondents were asked whom they would vote for. The AfD received 27% and thus ranked ahead of all the other parties for the first time. So you were talking about hope and that you want to reach the exhausted majority, but what does this hope put into action actually means? What are your impact goals with It's All the Rage?
Well, yeah, as you said, polarization is going through the roof here. We see political violence here, just like we've seen in the US for the last few years. That's starting, the immigration debate, the Ampel coalition not being able to govern, and the deep-seated difference between the East and the West that is still real and not really being dealt with. So my conviction is that this is about the every person, the every man. That's who we're telling the story about, and that's who we're telling the story to. Individual citizens have the power to not fall for this anymore. So my impact goal first in Germany would be find ways into spaces that promote dialogue and debate. Universities, libraries, churches, all of these kinds of spaces where people are open to start talking about these things more openly. And then when you have that experience, it's been my experience, that when people watch a film and talk about the possibility of bridge building especially, what has happened because the US is a little ahead of Germany on this, there are bridge building organizations that have started up where people can go and sign up and become part of that. That doesn't happen in Germany as much yet. But I have to believe that the more people see how effective that can be in the States, and it's being extremely effective there in certain parts, we can make that happen here. So it's about civil society, civil dialogue, and getting the movie in this, in the 90-minute length, or a shorter version. We want to make a shorter version. We want to make it part of a toolkit for groups to talk about and to be part of these discussions, and the reality that it's not going to be the politicians. The politicians are the ones benefiting from contempt and our hatred of the other side. We have to take back democracy and say, no, we're not going to fall for that anymore. We agree on more than we disagree, and we're not going to villainize the other people. Of all, there's 7 major parties in Germany, and it's not just about the AfD, it's about all of the conversations. So that's my main goal here, is to hopefully start to find partners who can help us have these dialogues in Germany, because I made this film as much for Germany as I made it for the US.
I totally agree. Is there some question from the audience? We would have one small question from the audience now. If not, I will be really interested in what is actually coming out of the roundtable discussion later. And we hope with all the partners we will find, and we really think so, find wonderful impact synergies together. And having said that, I thank you, Dan.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you.
And we'll see you. Next up on stage, I welcome the film team behind Grace. So please come up on stage. And a big applause, of course. I will just swap seats. So we will have here Silke Botsch, the director and editor, who just also did a panel or workshop on the Republika about rewriting history last week. That was really interesting. Then we have the impact producer Lena Boden here, and Valentin Thurn von Thurn Films, the producer. And also, I'd say just let's watch the trailer first, right?
My name is Silke, I'm an addict. Forever.
I've been clean for 14 years, one day at a time.
Grace is my strange, at times crazy journey into a sober and content life. Back then, when I gave up, stuck in the hamster wheel of addiction, I admitted myself into detox. I didn't know how to go on.
Statistically, 95% relapse within the first year.
I want to be the one of 5%. I didn't know anyone who felt the way I did.
Attending self-help group increases the likelihood of successfully managing an alcohol problem.
My first meeting, people laugh at themselves. I like that a lot. And yet I've never witnessed this kind of raw honesty from anyone before.
Ich hatte immer einen Wunsch, normal zu sein. Ganz normal. Was ist normal?
Physical withdrawal was the easiest part. I used the 12 steps to reshape how I think, how I act, how I live.
We're Bob and Bill, a couple of alcoholics, and we came up with all this.
My story is just one of millions. Addiction is a chronic condition, and to this day I need safe spaces in every city to connect, to share, to survive. They are my medicine. Living sober in a society that profits from addiction and sells it as happiness can be exhausting. Addiction is not just personal, it's systemic. With Grace, I share experience, strength and hope, and a need for more space, more understanding for those who want and need to stop. I never planned to become an addict. But now I have my female higher power, and she takes care of me.
Silke, you edited and directed Grace. It's a 65 minutes documentary. And what interests me is, why did you make that movie? And also, what's especially striking, of course, it's made fully in AI or with AI. Can you tell a bit more about that?
Okay, 2 questions. Yeah, do you hear me? Okay, I'm not English native like Dan, but I tried my best. Yeah, first of all, I made the film because I think it's a big topic worldwide. This is the reason why I did it also in English, because I'm an addict recovering since 14 years, and yeah, addiction is expanding. People want to escape from reality. We know why, or maybe. And there are 600 million, World Health Organization says that, 600 million people struggling officially with substance abuse. And yeah, and I'm just one of them. I'm the lucky one who's recovering addict since 14 years, so I'm clean and sober and live in reality. Moment. And lucky enough, I'm also a first film editor for 30 years in the film business. And I always wanted to make a film about that, and yeah, I did last year. And it's why not a book? I tell you why, because I can't, I only can tell stories really proper with a media film. And so I decided to do that last year, and it was great. It was a big, yeah, now I have a big challenge in my work life, because now you can really create your own pictures, emotions, and everything else, and you don't need anything else than yourself and your story you believe in. And yeah, so it's just started. Yeah.
And we're really happy you started. And that brings me to Lena, and we want to know, what do you want to achieve with your impact campaign? What are your goals?
Yes, I would like to divide our impact goals into two categories. One, we have the social aspect, and second, we have the technological one. The social aspect is all about changing the stigmatized discourse around addiction. So we want to break stigma. We want to turn the shame on the side of the addicts towards empathy and understanding on the side of society. So this one will target mostly people who are working closely with addicts, recovering addicts, such as therapists, doctors, but also people who are affected by addicts, such as relatives, friends, their families, relatives, as I said. Because addiction is a chronic disease, and it always was, always will be a chronic disease, so we should see it as one. And in addition to that, addiction is a common behavior. So probably, maybe even everyone in this room even has addictive patterns. So we do want to raise that self-awareness, that self-reflection on your own addictive patterns. And this one will directly go into the young audience. So we want to start at a young age for students, also their parents and their teachers, who hopefully aren't as young as the students themselves. And we want to do that, or we want to achieve that with workshops, behavioral games, graphic novels, and so on. And this is a good bridge. This is a good bridge to our second aspect, the technological one, because AI is a big thing in our reality in the Western world. So we need to learn how to use AI correctly. We need to learn how to implement our own thoughts into AI using, and this one will direct to universities, AI companies, companies using AI in their structure. So we need to learn how to use AI without losing our own ability to think and to put our own emotions in it. Yes, that's it.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Lena. And my next question goes to Valentin, because Valentin, you have always been really passionate about impact-driven films throughout your whole career. When did you join Grace as a producer, and why?
Well, it was an accident. I was in Berlin, and she invited me to take a look on one of the first rough cuts and to discuss it. And when I saw this, I thought to myself, wow, this is a totally new world of imagery. This is something very, especially because of her goal to reach younger audiences. I think especially with this new way of creating images, this is possible because it's really, it will attract young people. It might shy away older people, I don't know, but then there is her voice that is leading through the film that makes it a real story, and I think all the relatives of addicts, for instance, that would be one of the target groups, they can really relate to that. And it's not AI as when we think about AI, this is such a term that we think about it's automated or something like that. No, she took control of every creative step, because she made these images first. She made it up in her head, and then she said, I want to have this, and if it was not right, then she corrected it. So it's rather a modern way of animadoc, the animated documentary. So this is why I came in finally.
Awesome. We're also really happy that you came in. And we wish you also all the best for your roundtable that is starting in a couple of minutes/hours, and we're happy to see what is coming out of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next song we have Across with G. Kim. Please, let's welcome G to the stage. Be moderating the next 3 pitches. Fun.
Thank you, Lina. Thank you, 3 pitch teams, and welcome, Lieselot. Do take it. Yeah, they're on. Yeah. So, next project is called Human Rights Beyond the Human ? And this is a really, really special project. Hence, I'm going to talk a little to explain it. It's a little bit more complex, but I am so very happy that you are here because Lieselot is Belgian. She is a senior researcher, and she's worked also for a couple of years at the UN, but really, for the past 20 years, she's been collaborating with indigenous communities, ranging from indigenous survivors of genocide in Guatemala to networks of indigenous lawyers. And she was awarded the Oscars of the EU funding scheme, which resulted in a 7-year research project, out of which these 2 short documentaries are a part of. And that's why this is so special, because it's an academic, a researcher, who's doing brilliant studies and realized we need to talk about our findings in a different way. So, but she's also wrote books. She's made a podcast, so she's, on the storytelling trail, next to all the studies that she's published. And now these 2 cinematic short documentaries have been finished. They are 23 minutes long for the Nepali one and 24 minutes long about the Colombian one. They've so far been screened mostly in academic circles, like the university in Belgium. And now also as part of the project, these 2 films have been returned to the participating communities. Now I turn to you. Why did you make the decision to make films with filmmakers, which is quite unusual because in anthropology you also have visual anthropologists who also make their pieces of storytelling, but you wanted to tell a different story. Tell me about it.
Well, I guess it has to do a little bit what Dan, my dear friend, filmmaker, just said over lunch.
Oh, you know what? It was switched off by someone.
Okay, thanks. So I think it has to do what Dan just told me over lunch, my dear filmmaker, that he as a filmmaker tries to avoid as much as possible scientists because nobody understands scientists when we talk about our topics. So it is, I guess it's about translation. How can we translate very complex topics in an understandable language for a broader public, which is something that I'm very concerned about since I started my academic career. Let's say that I belong to a generation of younger scientists who wants to rethink how we produce academic knowledge beyond the typical things of writing papers, books, going to conferences. And in my personal case, it has to do, I'm from a working class background. I'm the first one going to the university, having a PhD, etc. So the ivory tower institution of a university never really called me. Though I love to do research. So since my PhD, I've been looking into how can we as academics contribute to many difficult, complex topics in the world through our research, in-depth research. And yeah, filmmaking was something that I said, this is what we need to explore. And as you mentioned, I've been working with indigenous communities over the past 20 years, and also my research project, Rivers, has been looking into how indigenous peoples relate to nature, what we call nature or ecology or environment. And there we learn that indigenous peoples have a very radical different way of relating to nature. because they see what we call nature, environment, that we see as something external, a natural resource that we can sell, exploit, etc. For them, it is a living land. It is sacred, and you treat it in a very different way that we do. But we can write about this, and I do that, but through audiovisual, through sound, it's completely different. And that's such a complexity that through filmmaking, you can translate. That's why we also collaborated with indigenous filmmakers. And non-indigenous filmmakers has been a very transcontinental team, because they, as indigenous, young, emerging indigenous people, I don't need to explain them what is a living land, because they know it, because they grew up with it. So how they look at it and how they translate it into film and the editing, that's so beautiful that me as a Western, Euro-Western scientist, I can't do that. Certainly not in a written paper.
Yeah, that's so right, because especially in the documentary world, we're constantly talking about who's telling the story and who's also got the right to tell that story. So for you, naturally, you not only work with indigenous communities in this case, but you also naturally chose that, of course, they need to have the agency to tell their own story. So I think this is so special about this project. Collaborative filmmaking is also in it. And you are not a filmmaker, so that was pushing you a little bit to the edges. But you did it, so congratulations on that. Exactly. So you mentioned the living land, and of course, let's say in the global north, when we talk about indigenous knowledge, sometimes that's really romanticized as something, you know, oh, this is really beautiful. It is, but there's something substantial behind it. It's a different kind of thinking and feeling about how we live and how we treat our living land. So these two documentaries really challenge our global concept of law and decision-making, doesn't it? And shows how indigenous decision-making depends on listening to visible and invisible guardians of what we call nature.
Yeah, so the Colombian documentary follows the legal and spiritual journey of a female indigenous judge from Colombia. She was appointed as being part of a peace tribunal that was created in the framework of the peace agreements in Colombia. We met a long time that she became judge, and I was the principal investigator of this research project. So it builds upon a very personal relationship, trying to understand all these difficult questions and to see how her work, because a few years back she recognized in a legal decision that the territory in Colombia is victim of the armed conflict. So we just heard about armed conflict and the impact of war. Normally war and the impact of war is on humans. That's why we call it human rights and violations of human rights. But she said, for us indigenous peoples, it's not only about humans, it's also about the rivers that are dying because the army is throwing all the dead bodies there because of the contamination, because of the destruction of oil pipelines, and etc. So how we see environment and how we see a war and a post-conflict that goes more beyond the human. And there we follow her journey, as she comes from a very spiritual family, and she tries to break up our really Euro-Western legal thinking. And then Nepal, you might think, what has Nepal to do with that? And as we will see, the main character is actually a sheep, because as a judge, she says, the living land speaks. And how does it speak? And who can listen to the living land? And who will translate what the land is saying? And in Nepal, throughout our research, we learned that in the Gurung communities, there they consult through a yearly ritual the will of the living land through a sheep and the behavior of a sheep. So for the judge in Colombia, this story is what she grew up with. So what the sheep does, if it shakes or doesn't shake, for her, that's a legal proof that should be recognized. That is a truth, that is a knowledge that needs to be acknowledged. While for us, I think many of us here in the audience will say, well, if that sheep shakes, maybe it's too tired, maybe it has too much water on it, it's just, I don't know, bad luck or whatever. And that's the challenge. How can we learn in the global north from different kind of knowledge systems that we historically has been excluded, marginalized, looked down at, oh, this is superstition, this is not real. But we are living the climate emergency that we are living, and I think it's really important that we in the global north starts to be a bit more humble and see that we don't have the answers on everything, and certainly not the solutions on everything, and to see where can we learn. And there the global south comes in.
Thank you. You're already making impact right now, I think. But let's meet the protagonists. Let's watch the trailer, and what you will see is you'll meet the protagonists, but also then you'll see as part of the project how these two communities met, which is not part of these two documentaries, but we wanted to include it to show you the bridge of these two documentaries. So please roll the trailer.
It's not the trailer yet, so yeah. But I will explain it afterwards.
विकास पनि ल्याउनु पर्यो र चाहिँ हाम्रा चाहिँ एज इन्डिजिनियस पिपुल भनौँ संस्कृति हाम्रा चाहिँ वातावरणहरूलाई कमभन्दा कम चाहिँ नकारात्मक प्रभाव पर्ने हिसाबले धेरै चाहिँ वातावरणमा एकदम नराम्रै असर पर्ने कल्चरै बिग्रिने सम्पूर्ण कुराहरू बिग्रियो भने त्यो भएन
सुरुमा त हामी नदिने पक्षमै थियौँ के नदिने अब यस्तो शक्तिशाली ठाउँ छ भन् अनि गर्दा गर्दा कन्भिन्स भयो नि त अब सार्थ नै हुन्छ होला जस्तो मनमा आस्था भयो
अब प्रोजेक्टले त्यहाँ अब मेन के हो त्यो टावर भन्छ नि त त्यही राख्ने त्यही हो भन्छ फेरि अब तल ल्याउने आयो भने त राम्रै भयो मनमा चिन्ता नै हुन्छ अनि के अरे आउने हो कि नआउने हो उसकै पुरानो थानमा जाने हो कि अनि मनमा त कर्लो त लाग्छ
डाइरेक्टली खुसी साथ मन चाहियो भने चाहिँ भगवान् खुसी भएको भगवान् खुसी छ है हाम्रो गाउँप्रति भन्ने एउटा आस्था जान्छ दिदी हैन अनि गर्न त गरे तर जबरजस्ती देउतालाई पनि जबरजस्ती गराएको जस्तो फिल भयो के छोड्ने बित्तिकै खुसी भइहाल्थ्यो तर भगवान्ले खुसी भएर चाहिँ मन छैन त्यही खुसी भएर मन चाहिदिएको भए छुट्टै गाउँलेको नि फेसमा पनि छुट्टै एउटा पुजारी बाको गाउँलेको फेसमा पनि छुट्टै एक्सपिरियन्स आउँथ्यो नि त
Dan malah saat ngem dia hanya saya berengnya nak duk bimari pim wah caca atongsa dia video da atongsa sanu khamde aman dia diga ani kalawa
Hi, I'm Prasis Tapit. Hi, I'm Manzit Lama, and we're the makers of a documentary called Mosing Rivili Riba, which is the Nepali counterpart to the twin documentary. The Colombian one is called Ati Sekundua. Our introduction to Belkis was through the documentary, you know, this powerful figure in Colombian justice system. You know? But coming here to see the welcome that we got from her was so special.
Y entonces el ayo es una planta sagrada que ayuda a abrir las otras dimensiones. Es un elemento muy importante del territorio para poder uno comunicarse.
So for the four indigenous peoples here in the mountains, it is a very important plant to communicate among the four peoples.
Entonces la vamos a tomar con la mano derecha.
We take it with the right hand.
Y vamos a pedir permiso a Gonavindúa, que es todo el territorio donde estamos, a pedir y agradecer por estar aquí.
So now that we've met the protagonists, what about your goals? What would you like to do with these two films? What impact do you want to create?
Yeah, so they has been produced within this big research project that in February came to an end. And as part of that research project, as part of the decolonial relational ethics, we have already returned the documentaries to Nepal last year. We did community screenings there. Then last year in the Human Rights Week at Ghent and Leuven, the university, we did a couple of academic screenings. And February now, we finished this whole circle back in Colombia. We had the opportunity to invite the indigenous filmmakers from Nepal to Colombia, and we screened them also there where we have been filming. And we learned in this whole process that there is food for much, much more. So we would love to do a lot of things, though I am an academic, they are filmmakers, and we really need to have partners in media and journalism. For one thing is that we want to release next year around 22nd of April, which is the International Mother Earth Day, through a digital dialogue and counter program, so building up on this South-South dialogue together with global North European partners. So there we look for more partners because the Nepali, for example, is actually situated in the debate on green transition and hydropower and etc., which is also debated a lot here because it's a case that was a transmission line financed by the European Investment Bank. And then the other thing is that we want to elaborate educational tools, not only for our master students or PhD students, but also to collaborate with NGOs, as more and more NGOs, indigenous and non-indigenous, are working on environmental harm, ecological destruction, green transition, and etc. But also there we need another kind of translators, not only the filmmakers, but also the educators,